Welcome everybody to episode 12 of the Kraken Cast podcast. Kraken Cast is where we talk to streamers, content creators, creative directors, artists, and everything in between. We are continuing on our ESO content creator grouping right now, and we're going to be joined today by ESO Stream Team Member, fantastic broadcaster, ManCaveGaming. It should be an amazing talk. I hope you enjoy our time with ManCave today.
Wow, that was an amazing intro. That was great.
Glad you liked it. Thanks so much for being here, ManCave. We actually had tried to set this up a while back, but life got in the way, so I'm happy that we were able to get back to it now. Definitely.
But yeah, life gets in the way, and then I'm not a full-time streamer, so it gets a little tougher to get things in, but I'm happy we finally got together.
Yeah, I'm really happy we finally got together as well. Happy holidays to you.
Yeah, same to you, man. The holidays are big on my family, so that's been adding to the craziness too.
Yeah, it's a busy time of year on top of the madness that comes with streaming, all the hats we wear from marketing to talent to producing and everything in between. And kind of speaking of that, there is a lot that goes on with streaming. There's a lot that goes with the decision to get into streaming. So I always like to start off with what made you hit the go live button? What was going on in your head? What was that decision to go from just kind of playing games to actually broadcasting what you do out to the world?
So I started a long time ago, 2011. I was streaming Madden. I was streaming Madden games, 2010, 2011. Before Twitch, it was called Justin TV. And I was actually playing what they call money games on Madden. So I was one of the first people to actually stream that. So that's what I was doing. That's what made me hit the go live button. I was pretty decent. My friends urged me on, so I did it.
Awesome. It's always interesting and fun to meet somebody else who is an old Twitch frog back from before it was even Twitch, when it was Justin.tv. Wow. So I was unaware that you actually were involved with the platform back then. Obviously, since re-emerging yourself here in 2020, though, kind of going deep into Elder Scrolls and other games, what made you make the decision to kind of come back to streaming or put your efforts back into it?
It's always something that I'm kind of a mix between an introvert and an extrovert. Out in public, I don't want to be bothered, but when I'm online, I'm very talkative. So it kind of fits my mold to kind of, want to talk to people, uplift people, talk to them about their problems and talk about my problems. I'm very open about my problems. So I just wanted to create a safe place, especially, people of color or people that are different, not just of color, just people who are different. I wanted them to have a place to come, and I want them to ask questions, and I want them to have, if they have a legitimate question, I wanted, them to ask it. I want it to get answered so they can be educated.
Yeah. And I think representation is huge. I think anybody who thinks about it realizes how important it is to see people who are like you on the screen, whether it's TV, movies, video games, or streaming. Obviously, I'm a queer streamer. I have ADHD, and those are kind of ways I differ. And you yourself, being a Black creator, giving some other people who are Black a streamer who looks like them, who is shares that, I think is super, super important. And I think it's great that you're an open book. And can you talk about what it's kind of been like, especially in the ESO category where, we do have a lot of diversity, but, it's kind of small pockets of it being, a Black creator in the Elder Scrolls space?
I didn't really see any. I saw one. I think his name was Aquino, and all he did was PvP. Now he plays New World, so he's no longer on the platform. So I didn't see any. But I always gravitated towards people like yourself who, you said you're queer, but it's the struggle that I guess that draws me in, being of color, and you have to deal with. It's the struggle that brings us together. Or I just not say identify us, but brings us together. So I just wanted to create that atmosphere within ESO because I felt it wasn't there, kind of. And I wanted to have a comfortable space for PvP where, people are scared to go in PvP because they're always getting yelled at. People in chat are always yelling at them. So I wanted to create a safe space to, be there for them. Say, hey, it's okay to suck. You are going to die 100 times. It's okay. I'm right here with you. Let's learn a little bit.
And that's something we share, not the PvP, but the it's okay to suck. There's plenty of people who do top end content, top end housing, top end trials, top end PvP. That's not me. But I think that's also important in sharing who we are. Is like, hey, it's okay to not do so well. We all play at different levels of the game, and let's come together. And I think obviously, being a creator of color, being a Black creator, being a PvP creator who wants to have that more like safe space for, I guess a little less of a salty space for people to kind of come learn PvP is like really core to who you are and to your content being that open book. What other things do you think really kind of define you as a content creator?
Other than, like laughter. I want to bring, I'm not a comedian by any stretch of the imagination, but I like to be real. I like to, to be funny, let the silly side out and let people know, hey, it's okay to be silly. It's okay to be a nerd and be silly, and I think that's what differentiates me a little bit, not only being of color, but kind of letting your silly out all the time on stream and laughing. And even, if someone comes in and I'm not dealing with everything that you're dealing with, with all the what do you call that? The rating that
the
you
hate
got.
rates and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Well, have had a hate raid, but you had something worse where they actually came to your house.
Oh yeah. I was swatted on the Nephis podcast actually. Yes.
Yeah. So thank God it hasn't reached that point. But even when I do get the hate raids and people saying words in chat, I'm trying to laugh through it, laugh through it. Hey, it's okay to like keep going and just create a positive vibe, somewhere where you can go and laugh. No matter if you play the game or not, you can engage with me and laugh.
And yeah, laughter is very important. And we share in that. That's another area I guess we share in also, because when it comes to the negative people, when it comes to the hate raids or the doxing or swats or any of these things that happen, people always comment on why, they're like, hey, you can go off stream. I'm like, no, because that's how people win. I'd rather keep keep loving the people that are there and not let a couple people come in and like ruin the vibe. And I feel like you're much the same way. Like, yeah, it's just not positive. It's not fun to deal with, but we can get through this together. We can take a breath and we can get back to like sharing this like positive space together and not let people ruin that for us.
Exactly. You just can't let them win, and I think they get more upset the more you smile through it. So that's kind of my way of getting back is, I'm not shutting down the stream, which is probably what they want us to do. But not only that, we're laughing through it and the chat is laughing through it. So it probably ticks them off a little bit more, which is okay with me.
Yeah, that's like I said, I think that's the biggest one, because I assume that they would like to chase us off, and that's part of life and growing up as a queer individual has been learning how to be like, no, they want to chase me out of the space, but this is my space, this is our space, this is where we come together. You don't get to push us out of this space.
Exactly. And that's why I said I identify with the struggle that you went through. People have been pushing me out because of color. People are pushing you out because of your orientation, and it's not right. And I just identify with that struggle, and I think it's cool what you're doing, and I'm just trying to make that same positive vibe that you got going over at my channel.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons I actually wanted you on the podcast is like it's different struggles. We face different things in life, and but the thing we do share is that the way we get through the struggle. I think I might have lost Man Cave.
There I go.
Oh, there you are. All right, cool.
All right.
No problem. So we talked a little bit about getting into streaming, about how you are as a streamer. So what I'm always curious about is I'm big on goals. I think goals are the most important thing. I think without goals, we compare ourselves to other people, maybe not the best way. Why are they growing so fast? Or, why aren't I doing what they're doing? So I've tried to shut that up personally by having goals, because I just am now weighing myself against my own self and what I want. I'm just kind of curious, starting out, what some of your goals are and kind of where you're at with your goals now.
Oh man, it was a very stretch goal for me to reach ESO Stream Team. I didn't think I was going to, but I just put in the application, and I got approved. And I think we got approved on the same stretch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, we were the most recent. We were part of the 7 people who were the most recently added to the stream team.
Yeah, and it's rough because there's been people who have been playing ESO from the start, and they weren't, invited in. And here comes me, and I'm invited in. It's a little bit of guilt. Like, do I deserve it? But that was a stretch goal of mine. And then obviously my next step is partner, which I did apply for. I didn't get in the first time, but I know what I have to do to keep pushing and apply for it again.
Yeah, it's very few and far between who click the button and get approved the first time. So I was a third time Andy. I know other people, it was like their 6th time. So as long as you know and you keep going, I think you'll definitely reach that, especially since you're putting in so much work to your community, your content, always striving to improve it. I think that's the key. As far as kind of talking about getting on the stream team and things like that, because I kind of felt the same way. Is I got on the stream team and I knew there's people that have been applying longer who have been wanting it longer. But what I had to kind of realize, or what I talking to other streamers realized, is when they're going through applications for stream team, they look at all sorts of things, your time zone that you stream to, your, the audience, the type of content you make. And they also do look at diversity. That's important to them as well. So I think, it's very important to have representation on the stream team. So I think there's a lot of factors, and I think you definitely deserve to be there. But I do understand the guilt, because I'm also very much like can be guilty. Like if I grow faster than somebody or I get something before someone else, like I'm super excited, but at the same time I'm also like, but what about like, because I think I want everybody to succeed. I think you might be the same way in that regard.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why, that's another thing too. When people come in my channel, like, hey, how did you do this? How did you do that? Like, I have no problem sharing anything. Especially if they're in the community, if they're accepted in our community, that means that they're generally a good person. So I try to help out as many people as I can in the community. And I see you doing the same thing too.
Yeah, I think that's a hallmark of the community. There's your outliers. There's the percentage of people that are toxic or don't want that. But for the most part, my exposure to the ESO community started almost 6 years ago now, and it's consistently been the largest percentage of people who just want to, like, hey, come into the guild here. Oh, hey, let me teach you this run. Hey, and that carried through to my streaming, and I think that carries through to all of us who are in the ESO category streaming. Is that's the community we came into. So when we're part of that community and we're broadcasting, we want to be the same way. We want to be, hey, come on in.
And that was new to me because, coming from toxic places like World of Warcraft, which I played beta. I think I played 10 years of World of Warcraft, and that is extremely toxic. It's, hey, you're not doing enough DPS, see ya. Like, but in a very, I'm cutting the curse words out of there that they'll say to you, but it's very toxic and they're not helpful. You can't ask questions. You have to already know how to do what you're going in there to do. And it's the exact opposite in ESO.
Yeah. As somebody else who went from, I didn't play quite 10 years, but I went from open beta all the way through cataclysm. And wow, it's very different. Actually, I was such a hardcore raider, heal leader, and put in like so much time, dealt with the toxicity, and made it my job basically to raid, that I burnt myself out on MMO. So it was a while till I actually found ESO after my break from it. Because yeah, it is a much more toxic environment. And again, this isn't to disparage WoW. I still love WoW. WoW is always in the back of my mind, even if I don't return to it. But at the same time, there's a larger percentage of people trying to tear you down, unfortunately, in that community that you have to deal with versus ESO.
Yeah, and like I said, it wasn't expected, but I actually the very first person that I saw streaming ESO, I knew about it, but I never watched it on Twitch or anything because, it was all about World of Warcraft and whatever else RPG I was playing at the time, was Saf. I followed Saf for almost a year and some change before I decided to jump into the game. But her community was, she was always able or willing to help, um, no matter how silly the question was. And I kept sat back and watched that for a year before I decided to dive in.
Yeah, I was actually the same way. I started streaming before I chose to move to ESO, but I was watching ESO streamers well before I made the decision to stream ESO. For me, I was watching Vindalia and Typrus, and it was the same thing with how they were able to interact with their communities and positive vibes. And for Typrus was being out about ADHD, which is something I have that really kind of made me eventually warm up to, like, you know what? I actually kind of want to stream in this space.
And it's good. I mean, it's good for people to identify themselves with you. It's, hey, this person's having the same struggle I'm having. Like me, I talk about my anxiety and my panic attacks, and it's good for people to, to recognize and have someone to talk to off stream. They might not feel comfortable saying it during stream, but off stream, they contact me, and my DMs are always open. Like, I'm never going to shut anyone down, no matter how caveat the subject may be.
Yeah, and as somebody who also, like, that's what was the original reason I had reached out to you, is I put a post out a while ago, and I haven't managed to do this podcast yet, but about mental health and wanting to talk about mental health. So I knew that was an area we really shared. And I kind of do want to talk about a few things mental health wise.
Sure.
And kind of starting out is, you'd already mentioned it with like getting on the stream team and then feeling like, do I deserve this? And that's the thing I bring up every stream, because we all go through it to some degrees. Is the imposter syndrome, whether it's your numbers are going up quick and you feel like, are they going to stay there, or do I deserve this, or getting on the stream team, or whatever the case may be. Curious if you have struggled at all with some imposter syndrome and kind of how you navigated that.
It's still rough. I still take it. It may sound cliche, but I couldn't stress this enough. I take it one stream at a time. And I'm getting to the point now where I stop looking at how many people are in the stream. I have to stop getting so focused on numbers. That's the only way I can keep myself going and keep myself my happy, jovial self. Because if I'm looking at the numbers and focusing on, even if it's focused on monetary things, which, I have a full-time job, almost every penny that comes in goes right back into the stream. But I have to stop focusing on that and just focus on the content, focus on the community, and all the other stuff will come. It will, if I calm my head, calm my mind, and most of that leads to not looking at the numbers.
Yeah, and it's obviously easier said than done, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
But yeah, I'm the same way. As I had to start, and I'd watched things about being streamers, but a larger streamers on YouTube now, Ludwig, ran this like how to be a large streamer stream once, and something he said in there finally resonated with me, right? Which is, you need to be focused on the content. And he gave this anecdote of Shroud rating somebody, and so with like 20,000 people, and they had a huge stream, and then Ludwig checked back in on them a few weeks later. They were a few numbers up from what they were at before that huge raid, but they kind of stayed where they were at. And then likewise, he had rated somebody with like 20,000 people, but their numbers went up considerably and stayed up, and the difference was the person was focused on their content. Their content, because like I can't make somebody huge raid me. I can't have Bethesda invite me to be part of their streams. All these cool opportunities might come along and have come along, but I don't think people would have stayed if it wasn't for the content. So yeah, it's like you said, it's hard not to focus on numbers, but it's important to remember, like, content is key at the end of the day, showing your personality through. So, the people who jive with that will come back to it, versus like sitting there hoping for something that might not come. And if it comes without working on content, might not stay.
Yeah. And that's, it comes with, I think the biggest raid I had was from Nephis? No, it's from Zynode. Zynode hit me with a huge raid. And that's, I introduced myself talking and laughing with people. I think I ran a couple of different dungeons with a couple of people after that, just to kind of, let the content take care of itself. And that's when I saw the big increase in my numbers, actually. So that you are right. When you get those raids, you have to have the content to keep them there, or not, they're just going to turn it off. As simple as that, and go to the next person down the list.
Yeah. And then the other thing that like really has helped me was coming around to the caring about the numbers that are there versus the numbers that aren't there. So instead of going, oh, I streamed something completely out of left field, something special or different today, and I had half the numbers I normally had, I can't believe half the people were gone. So I'm going, man, 50 people are still here. Like, yeah, I don't have the 100 I usually have, but I have 50, and that's 50 people who decided you were doing something weird and not normal today. We're still going to tune into that. And that started making me a lot more appreciative, was going, man, there's still people here. and those people are what matter a lot.
And those are probably 50 people who decided to sub to your channel for some odd reason. So, it's you have to continue putting on, even if it's 20, continue putting on for them. And that's something that I had to work on early when I first started streaming early. Is it doesn't matter if there's 10 people in there or if it's 60 people in there. I have to maintain the same focus, and you get that by stop looking at the numbers, which is hard to do. It takes practice.
It is hard. It does take practice. Like, numbers are good. Analytics can be good. I'm somebody who comes from an analytical background, but analytics are something you actually look at in the tech industry every 90 to 120 days, not like every moment something is happening. So getting out of this mindset of looking at my numbers just for the day, or the numbers while I'm actively
That's how you
live.
drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, because on a longer timeline is what you're actually wanting to look at. And if you drive yourself too crazy with numbers, you might find something that works that'll always have high numbers, but then you risk burning yourself out because you're not doing what you want, what you love, or you're not pushing yourself creatively because you're become afraid almost to step out of that content. And kind of,
Yep. Oh, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, I was going to say, kind of speaking towards burnout and stuff like that. I'm curious if you've dealt with any burnout or how you've kind of managed to keep yourself because I think it's as important as numbers or anything, and as consistency is pushing yourself creatively. I'm just curious ways you've pushed yourself creatively and made sure you've kind of avoided maybe burnout.
I do. The good thing about ESO is can I curse on your show?
Yeah, you can curse.
There's a lot of shit to do. There's so much to do in the game. So if I get bored of PvP, and it's not really getting bored, it's the mundane stuff that you have to do over, and I guess that's the definition of bored. Guys, shut up, don't talk about me in chat. But yeah, it's there's I could jump and do PvE, or I can focus on my sticker book for a while. But I am going to do something. I'm going to introduce my community into something once or twice a week, and I hope it's okay to use an announcement here on your podcast.
No, go for it. That's
okay. I am going to stream GTA RP once or twice a week on my main channel. There's a couple people who knew I have a separate channel that I did just for RP, but I'm just going to combine it all together and do once or twice a week GTA RP.
I love watching GTA RP. That's actually really exciting to me. I didn't know you had a secondary channel.
Yeah, it was secret.
That's perfectly fair. And I was actually going to start talking about other content before we kind of got back into ESO, because I was just kind of looking at different things. I noticed that you've spent actually quite a bit of time. If I look at the hour stream, you've streamed mostly Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
But here, just in 2021, you've branched. You've done a few hours of Call of Duty. It looks like you've done quite a few hours of something called iRacing.
Oh yeah, that iRacing was what got me back into streaming the second go, and I'm still continuing to do that off that second go. It was just, once again, the toxic community, and even with myself running a team, getting sponsors for that team and doing all that stuff it takes in the background, the toxicity just follows you. And I had to make a decision. I said, either I can continue doing something that feels bad for my soul, or I can, branch out and play something that I really love and be passionate about it and not have to worry about having a toxic environment.
That's really fair. I never streamed it, but I joke all the time about how I'm glad I didn't hit the go live button during my League days, because it's kind of still love League to death, but there is a dark, salty side of me that lives within the the realms of League. It just
sometimes it comes out, man.
It brings it out. It comes out a little bit here and there with other things, but Nothing quite like League did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. Like, it's always great to branch out and push yourself. It's awesome that you're kind of bringing that RP world into your main channel. So something I'm kind of curious about, because you are in the middle. So I've talked to people who have gotten to partner, been partnered for a while, aren't quite near getting partnered yet, so they haven't put in an application. You're in the middle of it. And I know when I was in the middle of my partner push, because they want like 75 average a stream and they don't want a high percentage of it to be raids and all these things, I had to, I guess, play it safe. And it took me a while to kind of break out of playing it safe even after I got partnered. I'm curious how that's been impacting you, knowing that there's, first, for people like us who got to a point where it's like, don't let the numbers drive you mad, don't let the numbers drive you mad, to now you're in this there's two phases in your Twitch streaming career: getting affiliate and getting partner, where all of a sudden numbers matter. You go from a person who numbers don't matter to I have to care. And I'm curious how that's affecting you and how you're kind of working through that added pressure where numbers matter a lot more than they will after you're a partner, and a lot more than they matter before you can apply for it.
Man, big time. It matters so much. I created a different channel just to stream RP. I didn't want to take the chance to turn off, what I'm built so hard for in ESO, to lose all those people just because I decided to play something that I like to do when I'm not playing ESO, because everybody needs a break game. You can't play that same game all the time while you're gaming. That's, like you said, burnout. So that's what I do. I immerse myself into RP. If you played Dungeons and Dragons before, it's just like that. You create a character, you have other people around. I mean, it's not like you're just going around and cops and robbers. There's actual characters and storylines that you get immersed in it, and it's really cool. And I want my fans, I wouldn't say fans, my community, to see some of that. And maybe if they want to take part in it, they can. And if it takes longer for me to get partner, I made the decision. If it takes longer for me to get partner because I want to introduce my community into something I feel is cool, then it takes longer. But I'll get there eventually.
That's a really healthy attitude to have. It's a very difficult attitude to have. I played it safe. I stopped doing like things that it's taken me a long time, and that's why I say it's really healthy, because it's taking me months after even getting partner to start going, oh, let's do this game or that game, because I like to sometimes just branch out. And I don't even care if there's 15 or 20 people there. I just, like you said, break games, or I just want to play a different game that day. But it took me a long time because I had to like force my mindset into this. This is the content. This is what has numbers, because I got so fixated on the numbers. And so I'm happy that, it might take longer, like you said, but I'm happy for you that you're able to kind of break that mindset.
It took a lot of
early.
soul searching to get there, man. It didn't just happen overnight, that decision. It took a long time to think about and talk to different people about before I came to that decision. But it's now that I think about it, it sucks that we have to do stuff like this to get a partner invite. But I rather do something that I enjoy versus forcing myself to do something.
Yeah, no, that makes a complete, like, a ton of sense. And it's again, like you said, it's hard. We could have a conversation for hours. We could have a whole podcast. I said this a lot on other podcasts too, but I could have a whole podcast about what I think is ideal versus what it is. Because I agree. I think when they're looking for people to be partners, they should look at a wider variety of things. They shouldn't just be a specific like numerical metric, because right after you get partner, you can switch games completely. Some people just, numbers go way down, they switch games completely once getting partner, things like that. I think it would be better if they looked at overall health of the community, like, how many unique people are coming through, what content are they providing? Are they providing a space for, people, are they providing a space for minorities, people with mental health? Like, I think there should be a much broader thing. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. It's very analytical and just numbers driven, but I could talk for hours, and I'm sure you could too, about a system that was more comprehensive in terms of evaluating a person for partnership, as opposed to
I mean, and they should, because it's actually a known thing. It's um, when people start playing a different game, you go into another channel and they say, "Hey, since you made partner, you can start switching and play this game with us now." And he's like, "Yeah, you're right." You know, that's a common theme that you notice in different people's stream that just hit partner. It's a different feel. Also, yeah, it is a feeling of relax. You know, you made it, you hit your goal, but also they can switch it up. I guess it's maybe you could think about it as I've earned it. I've earned the right to do this, you know, and I guess you could look at it that way too.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's interesting. I'm glad you came to the, like I said, the decision to kind of not completely force yourself to the number. I was able to come out of it and maintain, and I wasn't fully burnt out. But I think that is the other risk, is some people switch when they get partner, not because they want to switch games, but because they force themselves to do something for so long that they burnt themselves out really hard on that content, and now they're, you know, not wanting to make that content anymore. So at the end of the day, content's king.
Yeah, it actually happened to Saf. She doesn't even stream ESO anymore, you know, but I still go on her channel and support her. But, you know, she just got burnt out trying to hit partners so bad, streaming all the time with ESO. It finally caught up to her, you know?
Yeah, and I shouted out Safner in the chat room. Safner's a really great content creator. I really enjoy her content as well. So make sure you check her out if you can. So kind of moving forward, we talked a bit about mental health, you getting to streaming, your goals and things like that. The last thing I kind of wanted to like talk about before we got into like games and things like that a bit more was inspirations. Like, where do you draw inspiration from? Like, I know there's other streamers and things like that, but for me, like, for example, I draw a lot of inspiration from films. I actually watch a lot of filmmaking things, and I haven't been able to implement as much of that content yet, but I've been starting to draw a lot of inspiration from filmmaking techniques and things with films and creators outside of just like YouTube and Twitch to try to add to my stream. I'm curious if you have inspirations that you draw on both from streamers and content creators, but also from maybe outside of the content creation space for the content you want to be making in the future or are making now.
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. My uncle was like a B actor growing up, and I was always around that you know, that type of environment and watching him go. Even as a photo shoot, he used to take me around a photo shoot, and he'll get like a part and he'll buy a fancy car and he'll drive me around in this new Corvette to go someplace, and I saw things from behind the lens that a lot of people didn't get to see. They just saw like what's on TV, but I got to see a lot of things behind the scenes at a young age. So I always saw things a little bit differently. So I pull a lot from that experience to try to put it into my stream.
Awesome. That's really good. I always like to hear like those inspirations and stuff because, and I like to bring it up because I think sometimes content creators look at what other streamers are doing, and that's great. The yoink and twist is very important. Then seeing something that resonates with you and then twisting it to make it your own. That is the key of content creation on both YouTube and Twitch, but also sometimes you forget like there's other inspirations you can bring into stream that maybe somebody else isn't bringing in, that again sets you apart, makes you unique, because we're all making ESO content, for example, but if you click on different ESO streamers, you are going to see a lot of differences, not just the face that's talking to you, but the way they approach it, what they do and things like that.
Yeah, and it's for me it's a calming effect because I stream a little bit later, and so do you sometimes. It's like you know who Dume is. Like I go to Dume stream and I dance in my chair and I have a good time because it's in the middle of the day. You know, I need to have that energy. And then my stream, it's more, you know, relax um, and people tell me, hey, I feel relaxed when I come in your stream, or hey, it feels like I'm gonna make love when I come in your stream. Like, you know, like that's the stuff I like to hear. I like to hear that you're feeling the mood that I'm trying to put out, and I think that's important.
I think that's hugely important, and I think one of the things we as streamers, for, you know, the bluntest term, is our job is to provide value. It can be educational value, it can be entertainment, it can be just a chill, relaxed vibe that makes you want to make love, whatever the case may be. Like whatever the vibe is, though, like that's part of that value. Like people hear value and they think like, oh, you got to do giveaways, or oh, I gotta constantly be joking, but really there's value just in creating a space where people can come and share that vibe. And like I always say, like when I shout people out, like give a follow. Follows are free. Check them out. See if they're your cup of tea. Because I'm not everyone's cup of tea. You're not everyone's cup of tea. Even the biggest streamers aren't everyone's cup of tea. But you never know when you're going to find a stream that goes, this is the mood. I love this mood at this time of day. I'm going to tune in here Wednesdays that evening because I want a chill, relaxed, freaking groove. And so,
yeah, exactly. and I think that's what set people apart. If you look at especially if you look at the partners recently, let's say in the last 7 or 8 months, people who made partner, they definitely have a vibe about them when you go into their stream, and that's what draw people in. What time you stream and what type of vibe you're pulling out. Unless you're like a hot chick cooking or something like that, then it doesn't matter.
That's still a vibe. That's still a vibe.
True.
And having a lot of friends who stream in a lot of different categories, looks can be of value. I don't think anybody should shy away from if they got the looks, flaunting the looks. But again, they still have to put in work. The people who succeed and don't succeed, it's still hard work. I always like to throw that out there, like because people bring that up, and I'm like, you know what? There's plenty of I might not watch streamers that do it, but there's plenty of shows I put on because back when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I did come home and I did flip on a show that people may remember called Baywatch. And I tell you, I was not watching that for the stories. As a bisexual, there's just hot people everywhere. So that's its own sort of value. But yeah, no, I get what you mean.
That's awesome.
Was
that Century Overload for you?
I think it was.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, the stories. Plenty of stories.
There were stories?
Yeah.
I don't remember a plot.
I don't either. Yeah, so, obviously you're bringing in the GTA RP, blending that back now in with the Elder Scrolls. I just want to ask, because I've recently, of all the places I've delved into ESO, I'm very unfamiliar with a land of RPers, and I've started to off stream do a little homework so I can maybe check that out. Have you ever thought about finding an RP guild and just jumping into some ESO RP? Because there actually is RP guilds that put together scenarios and roleplay within Elder Scrolls.
I thought about it. Anything RP interests me, literally anything. I thought about it. I even have the book still on my Amazon wish list. I don't have Amazon wish list I put out. I have it for myself, so I can go back and see what's on there and order it and whatnot. So once I know more about the lore, then I feel more comfortable about creating a character and stuff like that. But I definitely want to get into that.
Awesome. Yeah, because I shout out there because it's the one area I've never actually dived into, but now as people in chat have mentioned it and I've looked into it, I go, oh, there's a housing community, sure, but there's an even deeper community. There's a whole RP community, just hundreds of people who RP, and I was like, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's where things get so immersive, and if you have not RP'd before and creating stories is kind of your thing, where you can write a little bit, don't hesitate to get into any type of RP. It taps into your creative side more than you think it does.
It's true. It's a really important skill set I found too. So I'm a lifelong D&D player, a Shadowrun player, tabletop RPG player. You mentioned that earlier when you're talking about GTA RP and kind of linking it to like people who might have done D&D. Yeah, getting immersed in a character, getting a story is really awesome and amazing. I also feel like it helps a lot for me as a streamer, even when I'm not doing RP things, because the improv nature of running games or being part of games and doing the RP, like even when I'm not RPing, I always have that kind of mode in the back of my head that is ready to bounce off of somebody else and like go down a rabbit hole at any moment. And I think that's added a lot as a streamer. Do you feel like your RP has added to your skill set as a streamer, even when you're not streaming RP related things?
Oh man, definitely. Like the past 4 or 5 months or so, I've noticed that. And I was just thinking that the other day when something was going on in chat where, I didn't panic right away. I was like, oh, okay. I just threw this at the guy in the chat. And that's skills that you learn with improv, and you get better at it as you go along.
Yeah, exactly. I think those improv skills are definitely super, super helpful. So, as we're kind of going on, I wanted to talk a little bit. Are you currently, or do you plan to make content off of Twitch? So obviously the big thing that people say is evergreen content is important to grow your audience on Twitch, whether it's TikTok or YouTube, Instagram, or Twitter, these areas where you can make things that people can find even when you're offline. I'm curious if you're making anything or intend to maybe make something in that regards in the future.
Yeah, I've actually hired a company that's going to do all my YouTube videos, and my producer's actually in chat right now. Shout out Helix Entertainment. But yeah, uh, I'm going to put out a whole series of videos on YouTube, and then we're going to talk about not Snapchat, TikTok. We're going to talk about TikTok and Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you want to post a link in chat, editor at ManCaveGaming Helix, feel free, and I'll put a link in the description of the podcast as well. I don't mind giving
awesome.
a little. It's not much, but I'll give a little ad space for people
I
you're working with.
appreciate that.
But yeah, that's really great.
Astro, throw your email in there. that's him. He's
awesome. But yeah, I think it's, and again, I think it's really important. My YouTube's not very big. I've just started finally making content that's not podcast content. But even with 300 and something subscribers and a very small YouTube base, even that's brought a couple people through. And so if when it's still tiny, it can bring people through. Like, I think there's a lot of like, that's like, you hear the big people who are bigger streamers say, you go, of course you're bigger, it helps. But even when you're kind of starting out, like there is a lot to be said about that. It's also a lot to be said about diversifying your potential income streams and your content also. Because if one thing blew up one day or fell apart one day, you don't want to have all your eggs in just one basket.
Exactly. And that's, like you said, the diversifying in life, period, is a good thing. And you remember when you asked that question on Twitter, you said, I think it was you. How did you find out about your favorite ESO streamer? Was that you?
Yeah, I threw something like that up. I think somebody else did it more recently though.
And I just remembered, I think, no, maybe it was the Foxton, because they copied, they RT'd yours. So I actually found you through Duma's, and I actually found the Foxton through Duma. So, and I found Duma through YouTube. So it's really weird how you can find all these different people from other platforms other than Twitch, because Twitch doesn't have very good discoverability options unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So it is important to diversify yourself across everything.
Analytically speaking, because I look over all my analytics, 6% of people who find my channel find it through the Twitch search. So yeah,
that's terrible.
Yeah. That's a very, very low percentage of the overall people who come through on a given month. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. It was the Foxden who threw that up there. How did you, find your favorite streamer? How did you find a streamer? Somebody had mentioned that they found Foxden through my podcast, and that made me feel super good about the podcast, because part of the podcast is showing a side of streamers, asking questions that might not come up, or that might come up, but you can't have like the same length of time on a stream to like get in depth to, but also maybe exposing new people to new streamers. And so when I saw the Foxden post that, and somebody else mentioned that they found somebody else through my podcast, it made me feel really good, because that's the intention of the podcast, is to, kind of bridge those gaps, and that made me feel really good. So, and that also proves again the power of creating that evergreen content off Twitch.
Yeah, and you do a good job of it. There's other people who just push content to push content, and you can tell. But you really do a good job at interviewing. I have anxiety. I was nervous as hell when I got on here, dude. But the way that you ask questions, and it's calming, and yeah, you deserve all the accolades that you're getting and that you're gonna get, dude.
Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And that's also, I've worked really hard on overtime, because I think this is one of the things the content I'm most proud of is the podcast. I think this sort of interacting with people in a podcast format is by far one of my favorite things to do. And that's something I really strive for. Is I know people are going to be nervous getting on a podcast. You're jumping on someone else's stream. You don't know what questions are going to be asked, or even if you know an idea of what's going to be asked, you don't know where the conversation is going to go, and you're putting yourself out there. So I realize by volunteering to be on the podcast, you're putting yourself out there, especially since we filmed live. So I tried my best, and I'm glad that comes through, that to make sure you feel as comfortable as possible, because I don't want anybody to like get bombarded. I'm not a gotcha journalist. I'm not gonna be like, what about this thing?
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's if you want me to do it again, I'll do it again anytime, dude.
Yeah, no. I mentioned it on the Nefis podcast. I'll mention it again here. The intention is to continue to do the interview series, but in the new year, branch out to have X amount of shows also in a given month that are panel shows, so I can bring a couple people on, so we can talk about various things. Like when I said earlier, we could do a whole podcast on, what they should look like for partner, or a whole podcast on mental health. I can bring a couple people on and we can have these discussions. So
yeah, and it's weird. It's, you just mentioned it, so it made me think about it. It's what it takes to be a partner in mental health. It kind of goes hand in hand, and you almost need like a coach almost to take you through all these different steps of emotions that you're going to feel when you're on your way to partner. And I'm glad you're doing that, man, because someone needs to do it, and someone needs to explain to, especially people who are starting out or maybe on the rise from 20 viewers up to 60 and start really thinking about it. You're going to need someone to coach you, or I don't want to say counsel you, that's a little too strong, but to help you on your journey mentally, especially if you're going through any type of disability within your head.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is support networks. That's where networking comes in, and I'm actually put it off, but I'm eventually going to be doing a whole stream on networking, because a lot of people hear networking and they think, get to know somebody, throw my link up in their promotions tab on their Discord, or maybe they don't realize the culture and throw it up on your stream or whatever. But networking is truly peer-to-peer networking, specifically, not business or anything, but person-to-person networking is really about getting to know somebody on a genuine level without expectations. So, for example, even the podcast here, getting to know you, going to your stream, talking to you, on Ninetale stream and stuff like that, to the point where like we knew each other enough for me to go, hey, do you want to be on the podcast? And if you'd said no, it'd have been cool, because I don't have that expectation. But the other part of networking is I've met people through getting to know their communities, getting to know them, that I can send a DM and go, you've been here, I haven't been here, help. Or not even help, just like, hey, I don't want to bother you, but if you have the time, I am trying out this new thing, I'm really stressed about it, you've done it before, do you mind taking a few minutes? And sometimes they say, hey, I don't have the time, but sometimes they do. And that's where the support network and networking really comes in, is meeting people on a genuine level that you can go to and say, hey, I'm going through this. Or even like yourself, you'd sent me, even if it's a simple message like you sent me, like you're like, hey, I applied for partner, I hadn't heard back yet, how long did it take for you to hear back? Like being able to reach out to somebody who might have an answer is such a helpful thing. Otherwise matters. You're just doing it alone.
Exactly. That your answer mattered, because I know you went through it. I know you applied more than once, and I was sitting there grinding my gears for no reason, like biting my nails. And your reply put me at ease. I was like, oh, thank God, it's not just me. And I think everybody needs that.
Yeah. So if you're getting into streaming, again, make those connections. Your support network can be people in your real life, friends, family, loved ones, other streamers, but having people that you can just ask questions of. And again, that all just comes down to getting to know people on a genuine level, not going in trying to like make a relationship with somebody specifically for growth's sake or business sake.
For gain. Yeah, it's genuine, and trust me, streamers know who's genuine and who's not genuine. We can see that.
Yeah, it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly. And the wonderful thing, again, I know I heap a lot of praise at the ESO community, but the most wonderful thing is I'd say over 90% of my experience, both when I was a 5-viewer streamer to when I was at my largest size as a streamer over the last 15 months, no matter the size of the person I've talking to, 90% of people who've interacted with me have been on a genuine level. And if they've crossed the line, I've been able to DM them and go, hey, if you did this in another streamer's channel, they might take offense, but I realize you might be new to Twitch. So, and most of the time it comes from a place of not knowing. So I love the community because most of the people like creating content within it are accessible, but also are not trying to make connections just for gain and to bounce on. Those people usually bounce out of the category pretty quickly, to be honest.
Yeah, they do. And I've seen it, unfortunately. Yeah.
So,
Oh, we got a question already.
oh, we'll get to the Q&A at the end. So they're putting up, they're
Okay.
using channel points to put the questions in. So
I got excited. Sorry.
oh, we're almost to Q&A. There's just a couple more things before we kind of wrap things up and move to the Q&A section. For those of you who are listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere like that, Q&As are released as a separate broadcast. So if you're interested in that, just make sure you download the extra or click to view the extra content from the episode. But before we get to that, a couple more things I wanted to kind of bring up. One is something I make sure I ask every single person who's ever been on the podcast. Everybody hears the advice, don't look at your number, or they hear the advice, having a schedule is important. So let's take out the advice everybody says. You, ManCaveGaming, somebody who's new to streaming, thinking about streaming, it's been streaming a while, but they're still kind of like at the beginning stages. They ask you for a piece of advice. What is a ManCaveGaming piece of advice that you would give to them?
I always ask them this question. Are you trying to become a full-time streamer, or is this a hobby? If they say if this is a hobby, I just say, hey, just be yourself, stream what you want to stream, focus on your community versus the game. If they say, hey, my dream is to be a full-time streamer, I say, you got to find a game that you really jive with, that hits your personality, and you have to grind that game and stream that game, network within that game, wrap yourself around that game. And people think, variety streamers have it real hard, and they have it so hard. And don't make it so hard on yourself. Don't make those extra steps when you're just starting out. Get yourself a community, wrap yourself around the game, and start there. Once you have that community around that game, then maybe you could branch out or talk about doing variety after that. But don't start off on the wrong foot and create those extra steps. That's the advice that I always give.
It's really, really solid advice. Thank you so much for the interview portion, for being here, taking the time out of your life to do the podcast. It's been really informative. It's been really great chatting with you. Again, once we start branching into more like shows with multiple people on it with subjects, I'm definitely going to have you back. But before we get to the QA, can you shout out your channel, your social medias, anything else you have coming up, anything you want to shout out?
Sure. Follow me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/ManCaveGaming. You can follow me on all social medias. It's going to be man_cavegaming. You can find me any social media platform that way. I'm very personable. So if you want to hit me up, chat, talk about anything, I'm down for it.
Yeah, what you're hearing or what you're seeing is what you're getting on a ManCaveGaming stream right now, which is just somebody who's down to earth, very chill, and very much wanting to get into games with you.